Penguin Random House Audio presents The Sentinel, a Jack Reacher novel by Lee Child and Andrew Child. Read for you by Scott Brick. Rusty Rutherford emerged from his apartment on a Monday morning, exactly 1 week after he got fired. He spent the first few days after the axe fell with his blinds drawn, working through his stockpile of frozen pizzas and waiting for the phone to ring. Significant weaknesses, the dismissal letter said. Profound failure of leadership. Basic and fundamental errors. It was unbelievable. Such a distortion of the truth. And so unfair. They were actually trying to pin the town's recent problems on him. It was a mistake. Plain and simple. Which meant it was certain to be corrected. And soon. The hours crawled past. His phone stayed silent. And his personal email silted up with nothing more than spam. He resisted for another full day, then grabbed his old laptop and powered it up. He didn't own a gun or a knife. He didn't know how to rappel from a helicopter or parachute from a plane. But still, someone had to pay. Maybe his real-life enemies were going to get away with it. This time. But not the villains in the video games a developer buddy had sent him. His phone stayed silent. 24 hours later, he had a slew of new high scores and a mild case of dehydration, but not much else had changed. He closed the computer and slumped back on his couch. He stayed there for the best part of another day, picking at random from a stack of Blu-rays he didn't remember buying, and silently begging the universe to send him back to work. His phone stayed silent. He didn't often drink, but what else was there left to do? The credits began to roll at the end of another disc. He couldn't stomach another movie, so he retreated to the kitchen, retrieved an unopened bottle of Jim Beam from the back of a cabinet. He wound up asleep, face down on the floor, after he wasn't sure how long. All he knew was that when he woke up, his head felt like it was crammed full of rocks, shifting and grinding as if they were trying to burst out of his skull. He thought the pain would never end. But when his hangover did finally pass, he found himself experiencing a new emotion. Defiance. He was an innocent man after all. None of the bad things that had happened were his fault. That was for damn sure. He was the one who'd foreseen them, who'd warned his boss about them, time after time. So after 7 days holed up alone, Rutherford decided it was time to show his face, to tell his side of the story. To anyone who would listen. He took a shower and dug some clothes out of his closet, chinos and a polo shirt, brand new. Then he scooped up his keys and sunglasses from the bookcase by the door, stepped out into the corridor, rode down in the elevator alone, crossed the lobby, pushed through the heavy revolving door and glanced around, convinced that everyone would be staring at him, then forced himself to move. He picked up the pace, feeling more conspicuous than if he'd been walking down the street naked. But the truth was that most of the people he passed didn't even notice he was there. The same time Rusty Rutherford was coming out of his apartment, Jack Reacher was walking into a bar. He was in Nashville, Tennessee, 75 miles north and east of Rutherford's sleepy little town. Reacher had arrived close to midnight. His journey had not been smooth. The first bus he rode caught on fire, and its replacement got wedged under a low bridge after its driver took a wrong turn 20 miles out. Reacher was stiff from the prolonged sitting when he eventually climbed out at the Greyhound station. Reacher was in no hurry. He'd arrived later than expected, but that was no major problem. He had no appointments to keep, no meetings to attend. No one was waiting for him, getting worried or getting mad. He'd planned to find a place to stay for the night. A diner for some food, and a bar where he could hear some good music. And with some hotels, the kind Reacher preferred, it can work to show up late, especially if you're paying cash, which he always did. Music first, Reacher decided. He stepped off the crumbling sidewalk outside the bus station and continued down the center of the street. As he crossed the next intersection, he picked up the rumble of a bass guitar and the thunder of drums. The sound was coming from a building in the center of the block. It didn't look promising. There were no windows, no signage, just a thin strip of yellow light escaping from beneath a single wooden door. Two guys, maybe in their late 20s, stumbled out onto the sidewalk. Reacher moved to avoid them, and at the same moment a guitar began to wail from inside. Reacher paused. The riff was good. It built and swelled and soared, and just as it seemed to be done and its final note was dying away, a woman's voice took over. It was mournful, desperate, agonizing, like a conduit to a world of the deepest imaginable sorrow. Reacher couldn't resist. He stepped across the threshold. The air inside smelled of beer and sweat, and the space was much shallower front to back than Reacher had expected. It was also wider, effectively creating two separate areas with a dead zone down the middle. The right-hand side was for the music lovers. There were a couple dozen that night, some standing, some dancing, some doing a bit of both. The stage was beyond them against the far wall. The singer was front and center. She seemed tiny to Reacher, 5 feet tall at the most, and as thin as a needle. The guitar player was to her left, nearest the door. The bassist mirrored him on her right. The drummer was there too, pounding out the beat, but the shadow at the back of the stage was too deep for Reacher to see her clearly. The left-hand side was for drinking. There were 6 round tables, each with 4 chairs, and 4 stools at the bar, which was set against the wall, opposite the stage. A mirror ran its full width with a jagged star-shaped fracture midway up in the center. The result of a bottle being thrown, Reacher thought. Reacher waited until the band finished their last song, then snagged a bar stool. He was the only one on that side of the room, and he couldn't tell from the bartender's blank expression whether that was a situation he was happy with or not. "Coffee," Reacher said when the guy finally acknowledged him. "Black." "Don't have coffee," the guy replied. "Okay. Cheeseburger, fries, no lettuce, no pickle, and a Coke." "Don't have cheeseburgers." "What food do you have?" "Don't have food." "Where around here does?" The guy shrugged. "Don't live around here." Reacher took his Coke and turned to look at the stage. Half the audience had drifted across and congregated around the tables. The rest had already made for the door. With no more music and no hope of any food, Reacher figured he might as well finish his drink and follow them out. He continued in the direction he'd been going before he was lured inside. But when he reached the alley at the far end of the building, he heard a scuffling noise. He turned and almost collided with the guitar player from the band he'd just heard. The guy took a step back, his eyes wide with fear and his guitar case raised like a shield. The singer almost piled into him from behind. Reacher held up his hands, palms facing out. He was aware of the effect his appearance could have. He was 6'5", 250 pounds. His hair was a disheveled mess. He was unshaved. Children had been known to run screaming at the sight of him. "I'm sorry, guys." Reacher attempted a reassuring smile. "I didn't mean to startle you." The guitarist lowered his case, but he didn't step forward. "Great performance tonight, by the way," Reacher said. "When are you playing again?" "Thanks." The guitarist stayed back. "Soon, I hope." "Here?" "No chance." "Why? Bad crowd?" "No. Bad owner." "Wait." The singer glared up at Reacher. "Why are you here? Do you work for him?" "I don't work for anyone," Reacher said. "But what makes the guy bad? What's the problem?" The singer hesitated, then held up one finger, then another. "He wouldn't pay us. Andy ripped us off. He stole a guitar." "One of mine," the guitarist said. "My good spare." "Really?" Reacher stepped back. "That doesn't sound like a very good business practice. There has to be more to the story." "Like what?" The singer looked at the guitarist. "Like nothing," he said. "We finished our set, packed up, asked for our money. He refused. I don't get it." Reacher paused. "A place like this, music's the draw. You need bands to have music. And if you don't pay the bands, how do you get them to play? Sounds like a self-defeating strategy to me. You must have done something to piss the guy off. You don't get the music business." The guitarist shook his head. "Explain it to me." The guitarist rested his case on the ground. "What's to explain? This kind of thing happens all the time. There's nothing we can do about it." "The police?" We can't involve them, the guitarist said.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?